me just make sure it's going through to the interwebs. All right. All right, you guys are live. Have fun, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, always.
Hi, I'm here with Oree, Original, a activist, artist in the Bay Area. Uh, Sounds like he got his chops with some spraying down in Southern California before coming up here. But what we're what we're going to talk about most of tonight is some of his political work, which kind of really changes from that work. And I guess maybe that's a good place to start. Or he is, well, back a little, but what brought you up here from LA in '09?
It was in 2009 that I was working. Well, I had a job and I was living in West Hollywood, and I lost that job, which was going to prevent me from being able to continue living at that place after having just moved out like 6 months prior from my parents' home.
Sure.
And I remember that a year prior to that, I had met people from the Bay Area while I was working at a bookstore in Eagle Rock called Imish Bookstore. So for those who are familiar with LA, Eagle Rock is the area in which I was working at this bookstore, and I met these people. And so I hit them up and I asked them if it was cool for me to move up there because they had suggested that. Because or else my other option would have been moving back to my parents' house, and I didn't want to do that. I was 24 years old, so I decided to move up here and just try out a brand new environment and see how that would play out with my art. Excuse me. And also knowing that the Bay Area was a lot more community oriented, so I felt that if if uh, if I would come out here and approach my art career out here, then maybe I would have a pretty good outcome as opposed to trying to do it out there, where it's you have to like know people if you want to be able to get into certain spaces.
Right.
So I I I made the decision to come up here. Actually, it was I I took a Craigslist rideshare up here, and it was my first
Oh
experience doing
man.
that. So
Okay.
it was very memorable leaving my house and then packing the few boxes that I had into this stranger's car, and then driving up north for a brand new life.
Wow.
And I've been up here for 11 years now, and I've been doing a lot of art um, since I've been living out here. Um,
Obviously, art has been good for you up here. What what got you involved with your first the I guess it was culture strike, and then also your Justice for Our Lives project.
yeah, so I mentioned the folks that I met out in LA that were out from the Bay, and they actually managed a local art gallery in West Berkeley called Pueblo Nuevo Gallery.
Okay,
And
cool.
yeah, so I had an art show there. It was my first solo show, which was in 2012. So this is like about 2 to 3 years after I had just moved out here.
Hmm.
So I was living out here. I produced artwork for my first solo show, and during this whole time, I met people who connected me with an artist out here who's from Oakland. Her name is Fabiana Rodriguez, and she co-founded Culture Strike.
Okay.
Uh, in fact, okay, I'm sorry, and so I was hired to work with her, and through her to work for her organization.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, so that was my first experience injecting myself through with my art in activism in a way that was more meaningful, where I was actually engaged with people who were being activists, like undocumented artists
Hmm.
and whatnot. Given that Culture Strike is a artist network, so through that I was involved in several projects with a lot of undocumented artists, and that was my very first time being exposed to that sort of engagement, which is where I learned the importance of that. Where if you're doing art for social change, then the best practice is to connect that with those who are the most affected. So I learned stuff like that through the work that I did with Culture Strike. And that began in 2012 and it lasted for like about 2 years. So
Okay.
from 2012 and 2014. Yeah.
So you look, I mean, yeah, I mean, I had the very same experience out here in photography 24 years ago when I came out here. That I mean, I had a connection to a close friend then, but she opened up a whole photography network of friends out here and galleries and things like that. And I think, yeah, I think that's really a natural part of the Bay is this really sense of community. I mean, I've I've talked about it with artists from other parts of the country, and they go, no, and someone knows something, they're going to keep it to themselves. They're not going to share it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're really fortunate to have fallen into the Bay.
I was very fortunate to have been able to connect with the people that I have in my time out here, which is uh, one of the main reasons as to why I'm in the position that I'm at right now, of course. So I think
Sure.
I made the right choice in moving up here.
Okay. Um, Justice for Our Lives. Very graphic, very, much different than your earlier work. What was the motivation to produce it the way you did?
Yeah, so this was in 2014 when I began Justice for Our Lives. Um, so it was some months after I stopped working with Culture Strike, uh, and I was unemployed, and I my living situation was compromised. So I was staying at a friend's house, and actually, this is a constant thread throughout my experience living out here in the Bay, where my living situation has always been unstable. And
Okay.
2014 was the first time of others that happened afterwards, but it was the first time where I was feeling like uncertainty and I didn't know exactly what was going to be my next move. And uh, so that situation, coupled with what was going on with Trayvon Martin,
Hmm.
uh, which sparked the Black Lives Matter movement, um, and seeing these conversations mostly on Twitter, and this was like within like the first 6 months of the inception of Black Lives Matter, where it wasn't at the scale where it is right now, and at the time it was something that I was really mostly just seeing online, just like through the hashtag and whatnot, and seeing all the commentary and all the conversations, which inspired me to become involved in some way. And given that I was no longer living in a place where I was able to continue painting, I decided to take up graphic design, which at the time was easier for me to have access to those tools versus a paintbrush, because all that was tucked away in a storage. So and then this all sort of kind of like came down to uh, the first day of 2014, on January 1st, when I had came back from the annual vigil for Oscar Grant. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna produce a really quick portrait of Oscar Grant just to honor his name. And so I did it on the computer. And this was when I first started learning like Photoshop and whatnot. So
Hmm.
it was not the same process how I go about it now, but I was able to complete it, and I put it out there, and I got a pretty okay response. You know, I was like, okay, people are vibing with this image that I put out. So then it was followed with another one, and then another one, until I realized that I was working with a body of work. Um, so I'm sorry, someone's calling me. Okay. So yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought there a little bit when the
That's
call
okay.
came in.
How far into it before you knew it wasn't going to end anytime soon?
Uh,
If you had, as you said, you had a whole body of work there, and not just a couple pieces, but something that could hold a whole wall or make a significant statement.
yeah. So it was like maybe like about 10 portraits in, where I started to see engagement. Like people in New York were downloading these images off of my Facebook and printing them and taking them to the protests after the killing of Eric Garner. And so then that made me realize that this was something that was beyond just what I was posting online and doing in
Hmm.
my bedroom. So after that was Alex Nieto in San Francisco, and with that case, given that I'm also in the Bay Area, I was able to be more directly engaged with
Sure.
that struggle. So then I started doing screen prints with people in the community and disseminating them, either protests or going and doing street art. So it was something that was more of a like accumulating to a level where I realized that this was something that I was going to have to uh, uh, continue working on,
Mhm.
because of the demand that I would get from the movement, whether it would be from like family members contacting me directly, or other people in the community like sending me messages about, you know, someone that had been killed. So it was just me just continuing to respond to the calls that I was getting from what was happening at that time. And I actually like up like when I got to like maybe like the 50th, like somewhere around there, and that was maybe like 3 years after 2015. So like in 2017, I actually took a break because again, my financial situation and living situation, you know, was not working well for me.
Mhm.
So I actually took 2 years off of this project. So in reality, I've been actively working on this project for maybe like about 4.5 years. Um,
Okay.
but so 2017 and 2018, I went silent. As far as this project went, it's just very difficult to manage a uh, open source project that's free. You know, I'm not monetizing off of it.
Right.
You know,
Hmm.
so and me being just one person, so I took a break, and I ended up going to school. I was actually homeless. I was living in a van for a while that I parked outside of Laney College. So then I
Okay.
would go to school, and then yeah, so it was just really tough. And when I got back on my feet, and I was, you know, I was renting a room again. This was the start of 2019. Then that's when I was like, okay, you know what? I've gone this far. I've created 50 portraits up until now. I'm gonna go up to 100. So my plan has been that I'm going to take this project as far as the portraits go, up to 100 portraits, and then I want to make a book out of this whole experience.
Sure.
So so that's my plan now is because I can't continue this project forever. Like it's affected me a lot, not at all to make it about myself, because it's not about how it affects me necessarily, but it has in ways, where I really don't feel like I'm building much for my ability to sustain a good quality of life. So I want to be able to also make art that I could like monetize and feel okay about it and make a living. And I haven't been able to do
Absolutely.
that necessarily with this project. So the plan is to end at 100. But another reason why I came up with the idea with 100 is because there's a collective in uh, in Paris that actually were inspired by my project. I can't pronounce their name correctly, so I'm not even going to attempt it. But they actually created their own version of Justice for Our Lives, with the black and white color palette,
Okay.
portraits of people killed by people in Paris. Uh, and they did 100 portraits, and then they made a book out of it. So then that's where I drew this idea from, and
Sure.
I think it's the it's the a good approach for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, no, I can just imagine that after a while you're going feeling I have to do this more than I really want to do it. I've got all these people that are sending me portraits and family stuff that it gets to be a big responsibility. I can see that.
Yeah, it feels like I opened up a Pandora's box, because
Mhm.
especially when I was on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook anymore, but I would get a lot of messages there from a lot of family members. So like I would do a portrait and then that family posts it online, and then another family sees it and then they inquire like, "Oh, who's the artist?"
And it
And then it
just
branches out and then I get all these messages. I'm like, "Man, I it's overwhelming,
no,
Um
I could just only imagine, wanting to go onto Facebook to just blow some time off or whatever, and then all of a sudden you've got this bazillion messages waiting from you from family members all over the country. Yeah, that's got to
yeah,
be a heavy weight.
yeah. So that's the plan for now is
Okay.
to and I have like about like maybe 9 more to go, so I'm almost there.
Okay.
Yeah.
You beat me to my next question was how far along were you up to 100? So you've already told me. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, sadly to say, I don't think it's going to take you that long to get another nine the way things are continuing to happen.
Yeah, well, the way that I've been approaching these portraits are not like it's not that like every case I'm responding
Okay.
to one that happens. I I I also produce these as a way to present like a historical account of previous shootings or killings, um, and just to be able to present a more full narrative of a historical account, of course, as opposed to what has been going on only since 2014, because this is an issue that has been happening for a really long time now, and it's becoming more apparent now, of course, with the use of cell phones and whatnot. So, yeah,
Mhm. So how far back have you gone then?
I don't know. I would have to look into them.
Okay.
I think the most earliest one, I don't know. I
Okay.
think, yeah,
No
maybe
problem.
early
Yeah.
2000s. I think, yeah,
Okay. Okay. But not okay. But being relatively soon in the last 20 years.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what in his in looking at historical ones, what then draws you to a particular death?
Um, the way that I choose a a portrait, it's usually different. So my intent with this project is, um, before anything else, is to center Black lives, um, and of so. But when I come across these portraits online, uh, that's what you see more of course. But I also wanted to make the connection, uh, between killings that happen with police and then say with like border patrol, so that the narrative is not about it being like an isolated issue with just police. This
Right.
is a state sponsored terror that
Mhm.
is happening on marginalized communities, uh, uh, um, of course, at higher rates with Black people, um, and but also indigenous people, and that's something that is not really part of the narrative as much. You don't really hear, or you don't come across incidents that much about of Native Americans who are killed, of indigenous people.
Okay.
But I also want to take into account, um, uh, migrant folks who are crossing into the border as well, uh, people who suffer from mental illness, who are about like half of the incidents of people who
Absolutely.
are killed are people who are living with a mental disorder,
Mhm.
homelessness. So I try to make the connection, with the different identities, or different, people who are living in different conditions. So that's the narrative that I try to formulate as I piece together this project. So if a story that I come across, like online or whatever, fits my ability to be able to tell that narrative, then I'll choose to work on that.
Okay.
Um, but I also weigh it out with, like, if I'm getting a request directly from a family member, so there's a lot of different factors
Okay.
involved in my selection process.
Sure. I mean, it just seems like if, while you're talking, it popped up. I have an old friend, tattoo artist in Oakland, that also has a gallery and does a lot of focus on Native American issues. And after we get off the air, I'll track it down and email you their contact information over in Oakland.
Yeah.
They would be really would be really helpful, I think, and would be really interested in your work too if they hadn't already seen it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
oh, see, it's always a community. Oh, somebody. I mean, that's just. I guess that's really. I guess I've always seen that as just part of life, really. I
Yeah.
grew up in the Midwest, and I don't know. Even at my old craggy age now, I still call somebody that's younger than me sometimes sir, or open doors for straight women I don't know, just to be polite. I mean that community is just so important, and I guess that's one thing that's really, really missing, or has been missing glaringly the last 4 years, because our current administration has decided to take their time to just try to destroy what America was standing for and replace it with this delusion, I think.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh, does so you don't so the current political climate really doesn't impact your work. It's more dealing on more of a personal basis with individuals directly involved with what you want to work on.
Yeah. It's more connected with people on the ground. Um, with the families, uh, as but it definitely responds to the political climate. I mean, like it has to. That's where we're in right now,
Yeah.
and it's to serve as a tool that allows people to respond to with what's going on right now. And yeah, that's been the approach, and I think the most effective aspect of this project has been the fact that I make it open source. So having it be something that's accessible to everyone
Hmm.
is what really um, um, allows for the type of impact that this project has had, and be able in being able to disseminate these stories for people to engage with, whether it be through street art or through education in the classroom, through demonstrations out on the streets. So I set this project up in a way where it's versatile like that, where it could be used in different spaces beyond just online, because you could post something online and you could get as many shares and as likes as you want, but if it's not actually being put to use uh, by the people who are organizing, who are out there, then I don't think it's as effective. So I try to offer my project in that way, and yeah.
When was the first time that you went to a demonstration and saw someone else carrying a piece of your work?
I don't recall.
Okay.
Well, actually, I think it was, well, okay, I know that it was the first night after the acquittal of what's the killer of Mike Brown, what's his name again?
Oh, God, you got me
I
too.
go I go blank with names really bad.
I'm
I'm sorry.
horrible on names too. But okay, the first night after, yeah, after the acquittal of the officer.
Yeah, and I remember that I had gotten these prints done. So I went out and I passed them out myself, actually, and that was the
Okay.
first time that I saw my work being shared at a demonstration. Um, so, and I think that was like a year after, so 2015-ish, I think. Yeah, like around there. Yeah.
So that must have given you a little rush.
Yeah. I mean, it was work that I had initiated to make that happen, of course. But yeah, it's always good to see that your work is being put out there and it's gaining the recognition,
Mhm.
because that's the reason why we do this art, is for people to see. I mean, not that everyone approaches art that way.
No.
There's people out there who do it for personal reasons, but I like to make the most out of my efforts. So in making it free, uh, it's been able to go worldwide, in many places that I've never been to myself, and I think that's pretty cool. That like especially with the use of technology, that our ability to be able to share art is a lot easier now than what it was back then.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So do you get you have a collection of images that people have sent you from your work in different locations all over the world?
Yeah, I do archive as much images that I come across, because that is an important part of this work, is to document all the
Sure.
places that has been shared. And it's been all around. The very first time that I saw it like outside of this country was in Vancouver. I think it was Vancouver,
Okay.
and then of course in Paris, France. So I was like, wow, like I never even thought that any part of me would ever reach that side of the world.
Right.
So that was really cool to see that. But yeah.
Yeah, it's fulfilling. I mean, it says that I'm making a difference. I'm doing something that people think is helpful.
Mhm. Yeah.
So the Paris group, what you said there was a co-op. How did they come to being, or did they contact you and ask, and how did that connection work?
Uh, I think they just saw my work online, and I forget the exchange that we had, but I think it started off with them just printing my work. Well, I know that actually that's how it happened. They downloaded and printed my work and they used it in demonstrations. And then the following year, they decided to produce their own version of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was more profound to see that a seed has been planted in where people are getting the idea of like sort of mimicking my work in some
Sure.
way, I
Yeah.
guess, like using what it is that I've been establishing. Because I've not only seen it done with them, but also even just out here, I've seen a lot of art where it's pretty obvious that it was inspired by my project.
Mm-hmm.
So in any other instance, if someone's copying my art, I would like I might have a problem with it. But given that this is a project that's not about myself, I totally welcome it. I hope to inspire others to do what I've been doing, where they produce their own project, where they highlight uh, cases of police killings as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm totally not opposed to that, and that's what this project has been all about, is like complete freedom. Like people should feel like they can take ownership of these designs, uh, even to the point where they're totally welcome to manipulate the images if they want, to fit whatever messaging that they might want to express. So, or even do their own version of it, like they did out in Paris. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I think when you have that type of a freedom, uh, great things can happen. So, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like this is definitely on the way to doing some of that. Now, when you're on Facebook, did you get much pushback? You weren't trolled much, or
Actually, no. Surprisingly, throughout this whole process, I haven't really received as much of those types of responses on any platform.
hmm.
I mean, like sprinkled here and there for sure,
Oh yeah.
but nothing really to any extreme that has made me uncomfortable. Uh,
Okay. Well, that's good. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I just think that it's more of my art that has reach than my name. So there's a lot of people who totally are familiar with my art and have seen it all around, but they don't really know the artist behind it. So I think that might be another reason.
Okay. Sure. Okay.
But yeah, uh,
So, when I was digging around on your website, I saw Stand for Water, Be the Storm, which kind of seemed to me kind of a blending of the graphic work and your more colorful work. Is that something that's relatively new? Is that a new direction, or
yeah. So when I mentioned the period of time that I stopped working on Justice for Our Lives, between 2017 and 2018, and I was taking classes for graphic design.
okay?
um, I was inspired to take a different direction with my work, where for the past few years at that time, I was focusing on people killed. So people that were no longer alive. And I wanted to flip it, where I would work on a series where people who are still alive now, and to celebrate them for the work that they're doing in the community. And I only got to do two portraits before I decided that that even that as well was me taking up more than where I was biting more than I could chew,
Okay.
because I was starting to feel bad that I wasn't telling my story, because I'm an artist who has a story to tell, and I spent I spent a lot of my time responding to what happens in the outside world and telling those stories, that I also wanted to make space for myself, whether it be talking about myself, or talking about just things around me that I have interest in, even if it's not about social justice.
Hmm.
So I just didn't want to be boxed in, like boxing myself into,
Sure.
um, like where I was doing one line of work and then now I'm doing another line of work. Really, I just want to scatter myself and work on different projects. So, and I always look forward to doing that. Whenever I go back to working on my paintings, that's when I feel happy again. I'm exploring colors and shapes. So that's a practice that I kind of have kept myself from, that I really want to get back into, and that's my plan after I finish producing this book,
Okay.
is that I want to go back to my abstract style of work, or at least that's sort of how I define it right now. But in reality, what I want to uh, create is like my own universe of different shapes and different designs and whatnot, and be able to continue telling my stories through that, where I'm able to use colors and and explore, um, whereas with this project, with Justice for Our Lives, it's like the same pattern each portrait. It's very predictable.
Right.
So that's where I'm at with that.
Okay. Well, but even that, the portraits again are you. I mean, you're putting your take on, a photograph, and you could highlight anything. You could make it any way you want. So I mean, it does have, I think, a lot more to do with you than tragically with the person that's died. I mean, you've taken the time, you've taken the energy, you've seen the importance of all of that, and given it life.
Yeah.
A couple things that popped into my mind about your book is that you need to have someone that'll write a really good intro. And if and when that is, I'd be more than happy to pitch it to a couple friends. And I think taking some of those archived images would be a really cool play, place to have, maybe 2 or 3 pages of just those, showing where the work has gone all around the world too, would be probably a cool thing to do in the book.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a part like art book that
Yeah.
shows the art, but then also like a educational resource, where I hire artists I mean, writers to help me write it out, because I'm definitely not a writer. So I'm definitely gonna have to seek funding for that. So
Hmm.
that's gonna be part of the process, and that's gonna be like a whole another thing that I'm gonna have to take on and figure out. But I feel that it definitely needs to be created into a book that can continue living on for as long as it can, and hopefully be something that, like, students can use when they learn about Black Lives Matter, when they learn about police killings and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's, I think that's a really good goal. I think that would be, yeah. I just had some work that was from my Trump work that was someone found, and it's in a book that just got published, and now it'll be seen by a whole lot of other people than than I would have had the ability to show to. And I'm fairly prolific, but really the work was all my Trump work was supposed to be shown in this early in spring when this all blew up around us. And so, yeah, I mean, that's really has changed my art practice some. How has the how has the pandemic affected your work?
Um, Surprisingly, it hasn't really changed much with my work and my life. Uh, I've actually been living the same way that I'm living now, with lack of financial opportunities, living on the edge, one paycheck away from being homeless. So that, I mean, there's a lot of people who live like that as well.
Yeah.
But for me, uh, every day has, for the most part, been the same. Uh, while I'm at home working, I actually haven't really had much of a social life prior to the pandemic, so that hasn't changed either. Um, I sort of feel more like people are being brought down to like my level. It's like a equalizer. Um, so it really hasn't affected me too much. Luckily, I'm in the situation where I'm at right now with the people who support me, and especially in living in the place where I'm at right now. So I'm very grateful to be where I'm at right now, and I'm using this opportunity to maximize my output as much as possible. So being that it's summer, I guess we're still in summer, right? Yeah, I mean there's
Yeah,
fires
kind
everywhere.
of. It's certainly it was a lot colder today than it's been, but
Yeah, yeah. The weather has changed a lot more today. But
yeah.
so like yeah, this summer I was planning on paint, on doing a lot of paintings. But since the George Floyd protests, I decided to be fully focused on justice for our lives and finally close out this project. Which doesn't mean that I'm gonna like no longer be active in this line of work. It just
Sure.
means that it's not gonna be in the form of black and white portraits anymore.
Right.
So I decided to take this summer to close out this project. I have a a exhibition towards the end of the year at the Smithsonian in DC. So
Okay.
I want to be able to finish this project by the time that I have this show. So and I'm almost there. I'm almost there, and I'm happy about that because
Yeah.
it's been a really long time. It's been since 2014, so it's been many years that I've been holding this weight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. No, well, I mean, the book would seem kind of a natural thing to have be part of the Smithsonian exhibition, and I would assume that would be something that they would probably be interested in being able to do a catalog for that show to keep it, so they'd have it in in their possession now in their collection.
yeah. Well, the a book is probably not going to be done until well, I can't really say because I don't know, but
Okay.
I would expect maybe like towards the end of 2021, maybe,
Okay.
or maybe even less time than that. I just don't know how long it would take for me to be able to get everything organized, be able to have the people that are going to be working on it as well to wrap up the project and print it and then put it. I don't know anything about putting out
Ac-
books.
It's
So
actually it's actually really, really simple nowadays.
I was expecting that actually
Oh
that
yeah,
it's a lot
no, I
different now
mean,
than what it might have been back then.
yeah,
Yeah.
I remember the first book I ever did was was of black and white photographs, and it was a collection of, I think, about 20 images, and I did 20 books, and I printed all the images and put the images together in a book.
Hmm.
And but nowadays, oh yeah, like Book Baby, I've had a couple, done a couple catalogs and a hardback through that was really simple to do. And the upfront, the graphic work, setting up the pages and all that is really simple. They have templates and things like that that you can download to help you to help you organize the book and put it together. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's really simple.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
No,
gonna have
that
to do
shouldn't
all
be
that.
anything to worry about nowadays. There's, I mean, yeah, that's it's a piece of cake.
Yeah, I think my greatest concern is just to make sure that it's put out there appropriately, where like the writing and everything, like everything's on point,
No,
So
absolutely.
it's,
You don't
it's
want to put it out there until you're happy with it, like just like your work.
yeah, yeah. So it's gonna take a while for me to gather all the information and make sure that everything's all factual. All the accounts represent, the history. Um, I want to get an account for each story for each person. So I want to have like an image, and then right
Okay.
next to it, maybe like one page full of, you know, talking about what happened or the individual. Possibly get, um, maybe the family members could be involved in some kind of way. So um,
Right. Bring out the side of the side of the person before they became famous for being killed.
yeah, yeah,
Talking about the important
background
stuff.
story. Yeah, exactly. Hmm.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. I mean, there's that, yeah, a balance between the sad state of affairs that got them notoriety with a lot of what news doesn't cover because they're off to the next, as William Randolph Hearst used to say, what bleeds leads. And so the news people were off on something else and not there to really spend a lot of time figuring out who these people really were.
Yeah.
And that's admirable, to taking that time and energy to to go back. But I guess with some of these, you've already made those, at least you've made those connections
Yeah.
already. So you have the door open. So that should make at least part of it a lot easier to do, because you have that intimate relationship with the family or family already.
Hmm. Yeah.
No, that's cool. So when is it? I mean, when is the Smithsonian thing supposed to happen?
I don't know the exact date yet,
Okay,
but it is sometime towards the end of the year.
okay, okay.
So
Because I
I
guess
don't.
yeah, museums are just now kind of starting to get their legs again. They're starting to open a little. I know. So
Yeah, and I guess it's all gonna depend on how we are with this pandemic when that time comes.
sure.
So that's the main reason why I don't have too much details. Uh,
No,
besides that,
absolutely. Yeah.
slated towards the end of the year. So we'll see.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, everything's up in the air.
Yeah.
But yeah. So you're going to get back to colors and do some self digging next.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a long time coming. I think the last time that it was, well, 2013 was when I had my transition from doing my paintings to then delving into graphic design, and then with Justice for Our Lives, and it's been pretty much just that since then. So I'm really excited to soon enough being able to go back and get back into this world with my shapes and my colors. Actually, the painting in the back is an example of that style of work. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. No, the
yeah,
pandemic kind of made me relook at things and get away from the political work I was doing, because I couldn't get all my materials are resourced at flea markets and estate sales, and so that completely dried up, and so I was kind of at a loss there. But it forced me to kind of go back in the studio and open up a bunch of old boxes of stuff I found, and really get back into doing just some assemblage work that I kind of had given up for a while. So I can completely understand getting kind of sucked into something, and really wanting to find a way to kind of balance it.
Yeah. Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, we've got a couple minutes. I mean, we got 8 minutes left. Anything you wanted to chat about that we haven't touched on already?
Um,
Any new? I mean, what other beyond now? Have you stayed in contact with Culture Strike, or was that just kind of a one-time shot, and then there was a grant or something, and then it just disappeared?
yeah, it was more of an employment a situation that I was in with them.
Okay.
So that was like about like a little under 2 years that
Okay.
I was doing that. And then so since then I've just been focused on my work, you know.
Okay. Okay.
But
So
they're still doing
what organizations over in San Francisco do you want to give a shout out to on here?
it. I mean, a culture strike, I guess. Uh, um, Anti-police terror network out here in Oakland. Been doing a lot of work. I recently did a little fundraiser for their work. Um, I mean, I don't know. There's just a lot of organizations, too many organizations, I guess, to name.
Okay.
But
Okay. Well, the next time you have something happening that's live on, well, either way. I mean, it's a lot harder to get people from San Francisco to come over to Oakland than it's ever been for us to go over to the city. But yeah, once we get through with this, I would really love to come see some of your work in person, and be able to see what's going on after we're done here.
yeah, only time will tell because
Exactly.
the
I mean,
situation that we're in this year is like it's so crazy. Who knows what's gonna happen? But I definitely want to get back into the exhibition circuit, because um, it feels good to complete a piece, put it up in an art gallery. People come to support you. You probably sell a painting, So I do miss that, and it's been a long time that I've been able to put myself into those spaces. Um, so I want to get back into that through my style of work that I've been suppressing. But yeah, it's something that will eventually um, manifest itself. It's just I just take it one day at a time, especially in times like this. You really got to just pace yourself. Just take things one day at a time. Try to conquer each day, and before you know it, we'll be in a place where things are a lot more settled, and we'll be able to start going out again. So
yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Things get settled in a lot of ways, or come come January, I'm going to go head north to Canada and punt. But let me see. Um, yeah, I think that is about. Well, we got 4 minutes now. We got to think of something. Um, for your now, let's go real back now. I thought I read on your website somewhere that maybe it was when you first came up here, you're doing some tagging, or was that when that was when you were down in Southern California?
yeah, so I never went to art school or anything like that with my creative development in my younger age. And so I grew up in the hood pretty much. Like a gangs were a lot more present, especially in LA back in those times, like in the 90s.
Hmm.
And I was a type of person that was out in the streets. I never was involved in any of any activity, um, but I those were my neighbors, those were my brothers, my sisters, and people that I grew up with. And in that environment, I got involved with graffiti. Uh, um, there was like these tagging crews, so like you would have your gangs, and then below that you had your crews. But it was just about graffiti.
Hmm.
And so I became involved with that, and I would go around, like there was maybe like a couple years within that time that I was gaining a little bit of like like I was just being known for my tags, which is
Hmm.
usually located like in the Northeast LA area or like Hollywood area, downtown. Um, and so that was my initial outlet to being an artist, because I wasn't raised in a house where I had my own bedroom that I could paint and whatnot. So it was easier for me to just have like markers or like a spray can or something, put it in my backpack, and I'll go out and use my neighborhood as my art studio. So that's how it all came to be, until like I mentioned at the beginning of this interview, where I then moved to East Hollywood, and I had my own studio, and that was the very first time that I was able to like finally set up my room with art, with like an easel and whatnot. So that was the very first time, and then of course I moved up to the Bay, and then that's where all that got transferred up here. And I've been having to figure it out, as far as how to continue producing my work, but then also how it has evolved from graffiti to then painting and then graphic design. So as an artist, and especially as I get older, I don't want to just be confined to just one
Right.
type of art, so I want to be able to learn it all, learn all of the applications for Adobe. I want to learn photography. I've been dabbling with like video editing recently. So when it's all said and done, I want to be someone who was able to effectively tell stories through multiple mediums, and not just be relegated to like just painting or just graphic design. So that's all still um, in process right now. It's
Okay. Well,
progress.
that is the perfect way to end this segment. Again, Oree Original on his website has all his work. Um, some great stuff that I went and saw. Um, Julian, do you want to? We've kind of said bye. Is this cool enough?
Is there
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Okay.
There's just one thing that I actually should mention. So for people who are interested in checking out my work, of course you could go to my website. It's orioriginal.com. There's no A in my name. It's just NOL. So orioriginal.com. Or you could go to Justice for Our Lives, which is spelled out correctly, justiceforourlives.com. And that takes you to my domain, where you'll be able to check out my art. I do encourage people to check out my store in my website. So if you want to support me, you could totally buy some of my prints. Uh, I do have a link for my paintings. And if you would like to just donate to me as an artist, uh, you could do it through Venmo. And the email is orioriginal@gmail.com. So that's what I wanted to add.
And if you didn't get that, we do archive every episode onto our YouTube, and Katie's real good at putting all that stuff down with the piece in YouTube.
Cool.
So with that, Julian, I think we're a good night, huh?
Yeah, I think that was good. You guys happy with that?
I'm perfect. We're great. You okay, Oree?
Yeah, it's good. Thank you.
Thank you for talking with me. It was no big deal, right?
Totally easy.
No, not at all.
Okay. Well, we might as well cut it then.
All right,
Thank
say
you.
bye.
Say goodbye to the stream.
Bye.
All right, bye
Bye.
everybody.
See you next week.